Niel has worked for all the major comic book companies and is the creator of the sublime Sandman. He believes that Steve may have walked out on his collaborator Stan Lee for political reasons.
There are famously a number of issues that they clashed over. Stan is meant to have looked at comments of Ditko's where Spider-Man is swinging past protesters, and he's meant to be saying things like, now just look at those dirty hippies down there. And Stan would go in and give him a word balloon that says, hey kids, I'm with you, or whatever. And you feel that, you know, politically, there's a wonderful sort of clash there between swinging Stan Lee and magnificently uptight, world-class uptight, impossibly uptight Steve Ditko.
Another theory was the disagreement about the revelation of the identity of Spider-Man's nemesis, the Green Goblin.
Should the Green Goblin be a man in the street, or should he be somebody that we'd known who was close to and we'd liked and looked up to?
Steve wanted it to be someone that no one had seen before, that this was just a random character, because he said in real life, chances are if there was somebody like this, you wouldn't know who it was. But Stan felt for dramatic purposes, if you reveal who the Green Goblin is, it has to be someone in the cast.
I've heard the Green Goblin story too, that he didn't want the Green Goblin to be Norman because he felt it was, you know, what are the chances that your arch nemesis is your best friend's father?
Obviously, Stan was right. Stan's instincts as a storyteller were absolutely spot on.
But Steve was pretty adamant about that. He felt, no, in real life, this is not the way things would go.
Yet another supposed deal breaker was whether Peter Parker should graduate from college.
I know when I talked with him, again, a lot had to do with what he felt was the essence of Peter Parker, that this was a high school character, that once you graduated him from high school, it was just no longer a character that could make mistakes. So it was time for him to leave and go on and do other things.
And to me, there's been all these stories about the reason that Stan and Steve did split up on Spider-Man. You know, it's the story about the Green Goblin. There's the story that, you know, Ditko didn't like some of the psychological stuff that was creeping into it. You know, he felt as if there was a veiled liberalism in Stan's scripts. But to me, in all honesty, I think it is just that kind of creative urge to go off and do something on your own. You've just reached a point where you feel, I'm not really getting the attention I deserve here. I'm going to go and prove I can do it myself.
Steve just came in one day, dropped off his last Spider-Man, and told whoever it was that was there, that was it. He was done, and he was leaving.
Both Spider-Man and Doctor Strange were big hits with Marvel fans, so Ditko's leaving potentially posed huge problems for the company. Stan Lee moved quickly to replace him. I went to Long Island to meet the man who had the tough task of stepping into Ditko's shoes.
I'm John Romita, worked for Marvel for probably 40 years. And had a ball and paid off my mortgage.
John Romita was working on the reasonably successful Daredevil series when he was asked to take over Spider-Man from Steve Ditko.
Losing a guy like Ditko could have been catastrophic for Marvel in its infancy, and yet here's a guy like John Romita just in the wings. It was a magical time, and that's how these things happen.
I wouldn't have been able to pick up Spider-Man and hit the ground running if it hadn't been established so beautifully and so soundly. It was a working machine when I got it, and all I had to do was put the oil in.
But John and Steve's styles were radically different, and John had difficulty copying Steve's idiosyncratic look.
Stan liked Ditko's offbeat stuff, and what he liked about it was that Peter Parker was not a heroic kid. He was a scrawny young kid who's a little off, a little strange, can't get along, you know. And for some reason, when I take over a book, all my heroes are handsome.
Incredibly handsome.
I can't help it.